Hello.
Hi there.
Hi.
Hey.
Hey, folks.
Hi, Steve. Thanks for joining today.
Thanks for having me. Where are you folks located? I'm just outside of Toronto.
Just outside Denver, Colorado. So not nearly as north as Toronto.
Right. Hopefully better weather than we have. Although it's getting it's starting to get nice.
Springtime is coming pretty much everywhere. It's really nice. And which means we had 8 inches of snow yesterday or the day before, and that's still.
What about you, Andrea?
I'm in the UK, in Wales. So no snow here. It's nice and gray and rainy as usual, but it's fine.
So have you folks been briefed on the project yet? I can't remember who was in the last session we ran.
Not yet. So we wanted to introduce it today. So I think let me start sharing the agenda for today. And let me share the link to the agenda.
Great.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it's 4 minutes past. So it's probably a good time to get started. So we have here today Steve from the VSMI. So we'll discuss about it in a moment and introduce the project. But first I wanted to cover a couple of items for the agenda before we get there. But yeah, so welcome everyone. Today is March the 28th, TOC meeting. As usual, feel free to sign yourself in, if you're a TOC member or project representative, by highlighting your name, or you can add your name into the other attendees list. And yeah, so just a couple of notes, action item from last meeting. We discussed last meeting about TOCs sponsored for special interest groups. So I sent a message to the mailing list about that. So hopefully we can continue the discussion offline on that topic. Feel free to reach out to me if you want to volunteer for sponsoring one of our SIGs. And the other thing that I wanted to mention quickly is for project updates. So last time we had the brilliant presentation by Christy and David about Tecton, and it's very nice to see we have quite a few presentations scheduled for the future sessions. So thanks, Mark, for scheduling one for next meeting, April the 11th, about Jenkins. So looking forward to that. And also we will have the following meeting about Spinnaker project update from Cameron. And also in May, we have a session scheduled by Jithan for Screwdriver. So that's great. Thanks everyone for setting up this presentations. Later in the year, we will have CD events as well in August and Jenkins in October. So looking like we're getting the full list of projects soon. Yeah, next topic on the agenda, just to link back to what we discussed last time about project metrics and health status about DevStat. I don't know, Fatih, if you wanted to discuss about this.
Yeah, exactly as you said, Andrea, and based on the conversation we had during LFX requirements working group session last week. So I had a chat with CNCF folks and convinced them that we need this information available. We can't wait like V3, Insights V3 and so on. And they thankfully brought up all the CDF projects to DevStats now. So you can see all our 9 projects on DevStats. And if you look at that tab, Andrea, DevStats. So you can either see individual project stats or you can see all the projects together under all CDF link. So this is now fully working except the affiliations. So the tool is doing some processing in the background to correctly identify the affiliations, and it will take a couple of days once the affiliations are updated, but except affiliations, the other information should be pretty relevant and correct because it fetches information from GitHub organizations. As I noted on the Slack channel, LFX requirements workgroup Slack channel, I used what we know about the GitHub organizations, and some of our projects like Jenkins might have multiple GitHub organizations. So if you have more than just one GitHub organization, just reach out to me and we ask CNCF folks to include those additional GitHub organizations to include in the statistics. And that's all. And any feedback, just you can send them to me.
Thanks, Fatih. Thanks for making that happen. Okay, so next topic is VSMI and CDF interoperability joint working group. Some time ago, Helen from the VSMI reached out to us, and we had an initial meeting with her and Steve. Not sure if I remember exactly who else was in the initial meeting. But yeah, VSMI as value stream management interoperability. And on our side, we care very much in the CDF about interoperability. We have our interoperability special interest group. And it looks that we have quite a good overlap in terms of mission of things that we want to achieve. So we had an initial meeting to discuss if we could work together and how we could work together. And we have a proposed charter that was prepared. We invited Steve to join our meeting today, so that we could present this idea to this audience as well, and see who would be interested in participating, what ideas and comments we can have about it. So, Steve, would you like to do some introduction, present yourself and the work of VSMI? Thank you.
I am muted. Yeah. So yeah. So thanks for that. And thanks for giving us some time here. I think that there's a lot in common between the value stream world and the continuous delivery world. We in the value stream management world struggle with access to high quality data in order to visualize and measure an entire value stream. And that, I'm sure, is a challenge that's shared inside of the continuous delivery world, although the scope is much broader in the value stream world. You know, we're working all the way from product portfolio initiation to value realization for customers. And so that involves a number of systems that are not code native, are not digitally native, not automated in any significant way, with very little API access, and very different ways of sort of thinking about our core entities, like work items and participants in the value stream. So this means that, you know, folks who are really interested in that end-to-end flow of work resulting in customer value delivery, really struggling to connect all the different pieces and establish a reliable or trustworthy through line of work items all the way from initiation to value delivery. But we've got a lot of similar, let's say, metrics that are valuable in that context. We've got a lot of similar tooling, and you folks have been at this for quite some time. So there should be a great opportunity to kind of leverage that work and momentum and experience in tackling this challenge of extending the scope and maybe looking at slightly different entities and use cases in the value stream world. But we see this as a yes and opportunity with a lot of alignment between the two scopes and use cases. So the proposed charter kind of goes into, I don't know, we could I could share that, or we could just go through it. I don't know if folks are interested in looking at a slide deck. There's very little in terms of visualization here, aside from illustrating kind of the scope that we're considering and, you know, the range of where we start looking at data to where we stop and how we sort of connect all the dots together. But you could see in this document in the working charter that we're primarily focused on work items as the, you know, the unit of measurement and the performance of those work items. So where they are delayed, where they pile up in queues, where they're blocked, where they're returned in terms of rework to prior stages in a value stream, and understanding really what is the value stream's performance for acting on and delivering those work items. So I'm going to pause there and ask for any questions. I feel like questions are probably the most valuable thing here, rather than me just talking about everything I could.
Just a comment. I mean, you mentioned some slides. I mean, if you have some slides that you would like to present, Steve, that's I think would be interesting for me, at least. I don't know what other folks think.
For me, one question before we switch to the slides. So if you talk about new architecture for value stream management, how would it align with continuous delivery system architecture, which we already have on the roadmap? Would it be two separate reference architectures, or would you expect them to be integrated into a single one?
That's a great question. I think, we don't have strong opinions on to what degree this effort is integrated into existing CDF efforts. There is a lot of commonality, of course, but I think perhaps separate customers, perhaps separate use cases. And so I think depending on, I think of everything as customer outcome backwards, right? So customers of continuous delivery, reference architecture, and interoperability, to what extent are those goals also satisfied by a value stream management scope? I would say quite a bit, especially as you folks are increasingly looking at it, implementing things like DORA metrics and beyond. Like there's the scope of the metrics that we care about in the value stream world is kind of starts at the DORA metrics, but with different goalposts, and then goes upstream and downstream, and ideally deeper into quality and aspects like value added time, which would be like a distant goal for something like this. But when you talk about value stream metrics, I think we're talking about extending goalposts, but also looking at different definitions than what we've seen so far with DORA and space metrics. And then ideally talking about realization. So what is the customer outcome of all that activity? I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, definitely. And thanks a lot for expanding it. So at least two CDF Premier members, CloudBees and Harness, have products for value streams. So Mark has raised hands, so maybe it's one of the part of his comments. But yeah, I think it would be interesting for many members in the foundation.
Please, Mark.
Yeah, so mine actually was, I'm fascinated by the non-digitally directly available kind of things that you're interested in. So that's unrelated to any products my company offers, but more of fascinated by the human side of what you're concerned with there. Just, I'll be listening carefully.
Cool. Well, I think, to speak directly to the human side, one call out from the charter and what we know about the use cases and the customers that we'd be catering to. Primarily, interoperability is the challenge of the implementer, right? The person who's tasked with getting the system connected and showing that the data is telling a story that is coherent and valuable, right? That right now is really challenging because folks have very messy data, as you know. They don't track things like work profile or what you might know as flow distribution. They don't separate the things that they're doing into constructive categories that allow us to separate each of these things and measure them separately and look at things like distribution to see what kind of work is being done. And I think that's different from something like CD events, right? I mean, we care a little bit more about what is the type of work that's moving through the system and the friction that work is encountering over time, and the delay that's encountering. So instead of firing events, this happened at this time and this happened at a time period in the future beyond that, we care about sort of like that plus what is the shape of each of those things that's going through the workflow, so that we can understand, okay, well, there's a lot of technical debt being done that should have an impact on, well, let's say there's a lot of technical debt being addressed. That should have an impact on quality that we can see in the future. There's a lot of investment in features that could have a negative impact on technical debt as a byproduct, but it should be showing results in terms of customer value. So that's kind of the vision for something like this, which I think is a level, almost like a business level above something like CD events. Like, what is the actual realized outcome of all the things that are happening in the value stream? But to get back to the customer, so primarily the challenge is the folks who have to wire all that up, and either they're trying to pull it from a data lake that's extracted data from all these systems and kind of put it in one place, or ideally directly from the tooling, right? I think we want to move in a direction where all of these tools, we can give this to ServiceNow, and we can give this to Salesforce, we can give this to Jira Align, and maybe via plugin, maybe not, maybe just by clear guidance, say, if you structure your data this way and you publish to this webhook, it's going to come in and it's going to be clearly attributable through the whole stream, right? So we're not very opinionated about implementation yet, but our primary customer is the people who are struggling to wire all these systems up and get this data connected and visible. And then, I guess the paying customer is the value stream leader, the folks who are like maybe the VP engineering, who's involved in kind of continuous delivery performance. And the vendors themselves struggle with this idea of, they want to provide value, and if they don't have data from outside of their ecosystem, they can't really tell a story of implementing or supporting a value stream analysis.
So I have a question about the non-digital data. Are you guiding customers on how to digitize that? I mean, are you having them, do it as, for lack of a better word, infrastructure as code, or are you, how is that actually being collected and stored?
I don't know about non-digital data. I don't think we're targeting any non-digital data at the moment. The scope would be anything that is capturing workflow metrics within the value stream or across the value stream. So, we talk about product portfolio planning, that would be present in something like Jira Align. It could be, an event that's fired from Slack that says, a new channel in Slack that represents a new initiative. Obviously, that's more of a project operating model, but we could potentially provide guidance to consume those types of signals that encompass the full boundary of the value stream. But it is early and we don't have a lot of strong opinions yet. That's why we're kind of coming to you folks first. We don't want to reinvent the wheel, and we don't want to duplicate efforts or, obviously step on any toes. There's obviously a lot of value here that we could hopefully augment.
And do you foresee, let's say there's something coming from Slack that you want to capture, are you in a position to make that information available as a cloud event?
That entirely depends on, well, I imagine yes. I mean, Slack has everything from like native app implementations to webhook integration. So I imagine you could fire off any kind of event that you wanted. But I also imagine that Slack is in the scope of the current CD workflow. So I'm not sure that that's something that we would add, but if it's, you know, if it's a missing piece that seems valuable, then we'll certainly investigate it.
Yeah, so what I'm trying to get at is if you're going to be capturing or listening for this data to be updated, like you said, like in Jira Align, it would be great if that was publicized using an event versus plugins and API type of implementation, because that way with the CD events project, we could be able to categorize those and make them available to everybody in the pipeline.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, that's a perfectly reasonable goal in the context of this effort. I don't know what sort of things we would start with and capture, but you know, that is one of the things that, like, Slack is one of those things that can bridge gaps in a lot of tooling that doesn't do what you want it to do, right? I mean, you can have people kind of fill in the gaps, or bots fill in the gaps. There's a lot of options there. We're not at the stage of even designing. We're kind of evaluating reference architectures at this moment. So we're looking at parallel efforts in IT for IT. They have a reference architecture for value streams, which seems fairly complete, that we can leverage. We have to do a little bit of a deep dive into CD events to understand how much of that seems to be a fit. But I am interested in hearing from your perspective whether you think this is an extension on CD events, if it fits somewhere else, if it's a level above. I'm not sure, and I don't have strong opinions about that.
So as someone who's worked on, early worked on the events team, anything that we do in the future in terms of interoperability, I personally think it should be done through events. I mean, we've looked at plugins for a long time and we know the challenges of them, and we have to get to a better place. So I would be pushing for, if there's a working, if we're gonna have a value stream working group, I feel like that working group should be under the CD events and be building events as opposed to under interoperability. And I think from a TOC perspective, we need to really look at interoperability and CD events and see if they're one team, because they're both addressing the similar thing. One is doing it in a very specific way and building vocabulary around the events. But anyway, if we're going to do this, if we're going to move forward with it, I'd be pushing for it to be under the events and under the guidance of Andrea and Emil.
I just want to say thank you for all the time. I feel like I've really monopolized the agenda today, so I appreciate that, and I appreciate the consideration and collaboration here.
Absolutely.
What's the best way to get involved in this working group?
Well, so it's currently running through Oasis. I don't know if any folks in CDF are also Oasis members. I'm sure there are. I know that through a couple of vendors, they have membership on other technical committees, but we're a technical committee under Oasis right now. So we have a regular meeting cadence. It'd be great to hear from folks who are interested in attending our meetings. And I can make sure that you get invited, and or that materials and meeting notes and video or whatever is valuable is shared back and forth. And I'm happy to come here. I'm happy to be a go-between or whatever is helpful.
My suggestion would be start attending the CD events meetings.
Got it.
Yeah, I think what we were considering was to set up kind of a new joint working group, so we could have like meeting dedicated to people interested in both words. Yeah, the only risk with that, of course, might be that we disperse kind of attendance because it's an extra meeting on people's calendar.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what are people's thoughts about this? I mean, yeah.
I would initially start with just having Steve join and his group just attend a couple meetings on the CD events, and just so they get a kind of a feel for what's going on there, and then down the road make a decision on if an additional meeting is needed.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I agree as well. I think we have the SIG events meetings every second Monday. Then we have dedicated CD events meetings where we actually discuss the protocol and details about that. But maybe this is more for the SIG itself at this stage, at least, to set the scope of where is our event efforts going. Well, obviously the name CD events doesn't match very well maybe with the broader scope of ESM at the moment, but that's maybe a detailed question. But I think we would have room in our agenda on the SIG meetings for sure to talk about the VSM aspects of the end-to-end pipeline, or what we should call it as well, of course. So that makes sense. And well, I think that's maybe a better option, just to say, Tracy, to begin with, instead of adding another meeting in our calendars. I'm not exactly sure what topics we should like start on there. I mean, reference architecture is not something we have been discussing a lot in that group yet. So I'm a bit hesitant to like drive that work, but of course, as a joint effort, we can help out. I'm not exactly sure what in practice we would start discussing in such a meeting, but
Well, that's why I was saying just start out with the meet and greet and kind of get a feel for the lay of the land, and then kind of work from there.
Sure.
And
Sounds good to me.
And kind of, I would imagine that Steve, you would go ahead and do a little bit of a deeper dive for the SIG events.
Mm-hmm.
Just to bring them up to speed.
Yeah, I can definitely do that.
So the meeting currently runs, it's every other Monday, as you said, Emil. I believe it's 4 p.m. UTC. 4 p.m.
Yeah, UTC. Yeah.
UTC, yeah.
Yeah.
Or
sorry, it's actually, isn't it 3 p.m. UTC now? It's summertime.
it's 3, yeah, it's 3 p.m. UTC, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was,
Right.
so it's
Ah,
4
okay.
p.m. for me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Like you said, Emil, so in the CD events meeting, we discussed specific details about the CD event project itself in terms of specification, SDKs, and things like that. While the SIG events meeting is meant to be a more like overarching type of discussion. And yeah, I guess it would be interesting really to start discussing, from my perspective, it would be interesting to start discussing some, yeah, from an architecture point of view, how do we see events sitting in the CI/CD space? So we could, create some material maybe to put CD events in context, more in context, like what we started with the white paper, and maybe expand on that. But yeah, it would be great to have a good group to discuss about these.
All right.
So
Well,
I don't know.
I'll plan for a presentation at the next events meeting, and I guess we could take it from there.
Cool. Are other folks from the TOC here today that are interested in joining in this conversation?
I'm interested in joining.
Great. So yeah, hopefully the current scheduled time works for you, Cameron.
Yeah, I think it's the same time, just next week. So that should work. Thanks.
Cool.
Just one more comment from me there. The next meeting is planned now for 2 weeks from now, but Monday. That is a holiday in Sweden, so I won't be working then. So if we should meet, then I won't be there, but then I will be there 2 weeks later. But I'm not sure if that's not a holiday in all countries, I believe. Andrea, will you be there on April 11th?
11, I believe I will.
So you're saying Tuesday, the 11th is a holiday in Sweden?
Sorry, Monday the 10th.
Okay, all right.
The Monday is a holiday.
Well, it's basically Easter for many countries. Switzerland. Well, in Switzerland is a bit complicated because in my canton I'm supposed to work, but at the same time the childcare doesn't work. So I guess the same for me. So yeah, maybe it's better to try another week because there might be other countries that are affected.
All right. So, I mean, we could either try and postpone that meeting, or the following meeting that would be on April the 24th.
Yeah, I propose we go for April 24th.
Which is
Might be easier than finding another time slot.
It's after KubeCon. Okay.
It is.
So okay.
Is that the
Yeah.
24th or the week of the 24th, and the Tuesday being the 25th?
No, it's the Monday. So we talk about Monday.
It's a
so-
Monday. Yeah.
Oh, Monday.
So
Got it. Okay. Oh, that's right. Every second Monday. I missed that.
Sure.
So let me see if we can. Distance. Okay. So. Okay. So yeah, that's a link to the meeting for that date.
Well, the 28th.
Is it? Did I get it? Ah,
24th.
I've
no,
got
it's
it
the
in.
24.
Okay.
Sorry. My main is done. Right. Okay. Yeah. So that's great. So we have a plan for the next step. I guess we on the charter. We had some questions. I think we had some joint goals that we wanted to discuss, and some questions about the collaboration between the two groups, so between the SIG events, I guess, or anyway, the CDF and the VSMI. And so maybe that could be part of what we can discuss about and talk about during our first meeting or in the following meetings as well.
Do you folks have any current joint efforts like this we could use as a reference?
I don't believe we have anything. I mean, we have some effort we do with other organizations, but I'm not sure. I mean, I think we are developing some training material in collaboration with other foundations. But I guess they're still within the Linux Foundation umbrella, so it's a bit different. So I'm not sure. I don't know. Patty, do you know if we have anything we could use as a framework for this? Anything else?
Yeah, we can discuss about that offline. Maybe we can check with other groups, see if they have something similar.
Okay,
When
yeah,
we
that
didn't
makes
when
sense.
we did the CD events, we were first a working group. Do we have anything from that? Something in Git that would help them? I thought we did something initially.
Yeah, CD1 started as a work stream under special interest group interoperability. So maybe like a similar approach could be taken for this as well within SIG events, like if it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have that documented actually, which was one of the things we were thinking of promoting to TOC level. But yeah, we can definitely think on Slack to see if it works for this as well.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Fatih and Tracy. All right. Anything else we would like to discuss? Well, we have Steve today. Any other questions? Any other things also from your side, Steve, you would like to bring up?
No, I think the 24th gives us enough time to do all the exploration we need on our end to bring, I think that there's some value from the other resources we're considering leveraging. And so I'm still synthesizing that. I'm going to bring all that together and I'll present everything on the 24th. That means we should be well informed and ready to make some good decisions about moving forward. I've added myself to the Slack too, so I'll be around and I'll catch up with everything that's been going on. I am curious about, I mean, right now the proposed charter is in the context of interoperability. So I was wondering if it's valuable to also add the same context from CD events, as I'm not sure, it doesn't sound like it's clear whether or not we should focus entirely on events and not interoperability, or if there's there's a path leveraging both or something else. So that might be a good reference point.
I would agree with Tracy, what she said earlier, that it seems like this is a better fit for CD events, at least initially. I mean, unless we have some other type of implementation that we think of, it just seems like that's the best scope for this at the moment. So I would say yes, CD events, for sure.
Great.
No strong opinion. My only preference would be to reuse the existing meetings as long as it's viable. Because yeah, if you create a new group and a new set of meetings, and it may be difficult for people to join. And I believe that in all 6 we do have some bandwidth to accommodate another working group and another project within the existing framework.
Yeah, I agree. And also, as I said, I think our SIG meetings today are not fully packed with agenda items normally. So it would be perfectly okay to have like a work group for this joint effort as part of that agenda for some time. And eventually, if we see that that grows and we need to separate it out to a separate meeting, then of course we can do so.
I did leave a question in chat asking the difference between the different types of CD events meetings. I see 3 different meetings on the calendar, all relating to CD events. Just curious which one is the one to join for this.
Yes, thanks, Cameron. It's a very good question. So, and I think you're aware it's maybe a bit confusing. So on every other Monday, at 3 p.m. UTC, which is this afternoon for me, we have a meeting called CDF SIG events, and this is the one that we are targeting for this topic. The other 2 meetings, there are CD events working group, so there's a specific to the CD events project as opposed to the SIG events group. And those 2 meetings, those are basically a weekly meeting, and we have alternating time to allow for people from the project to join. But yeah, so the one that we are targeting for this is the Monday 3 p.m. UTC. So the one I put a link in the notes.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Okay. Yes, I can do some work here. Take an action to add on the current charter the CDF SIG events as well. All right. Anything else?
Should we do some specific invites to this meeting, you think, or will you find it yourselves, Steve and Cameron and others who might be interested to join? Should we add you to the meeting slot, to the specific meetings instance, or should we? Do you think you will find your way there anyway?
I've got the event for the 24th in my calendar.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to be invited. I can send my email address here.
Sure.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
Okay. Was there anyone else who wanted to be invited then, or is it the other ones? And of course, Steve, if you want to bring someone else from VSMI, that's perfectly fine as well.
Yeah, there will probably be a couple folks interested.
You can forward it then if you want.
Go.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, likewise. This has been really encouraging. It's much easier to piggyback on all the hard work you folks have been doing and try to contribute rather than doing all this again from scratch.
Yeah, and thanks for joining us today, Steve. So let me. I lost my. Okay, sorry, I lost my part of my Zoom window. Okay, we have a few minutes left. We can use them to go through the roadmap. If that's okay for folks. Unless there is anything else more pressing that people would like to discuss in the last few minutes.
I'd just like to give an update on our LFX working group. We did have our first meeting. We have there's a Git repo out there for discussion. So if anybody would like to add issues or complaints or things that they love about LFX that we would like to see the Linux Foundation keep in the product, that would be a good place to express it. So we will meet again next month. I think we have another 2 or 3 weeks, and the goal is to get as many of those kind of discussion points together. And then we will work on a shared doc that we can pass off to the Linux Foundation that says, these are the things we think would make this product better. These are the things we love, and this is what it's missing. And we'll see what happens. It will probably be a political conversation, but somebody's got to start it, right? I'm really good at sticking my head out.
Great, thanks, Tracy. So I put a link to the GitHub repo there. And yeah. So
yeah, so
looking
just
forward to
you could go
issues.
there and just open discussions. So go click on the discussions because that's where most of the stuff is. So we have
discussions.
yeah. So just discussions, and then we're going to take those discussions and we'll put them into a shared doc. I think Steve has a few that he has to add. I think Mark has a few. Mark's favorites. We have to have a discussion on Mark's favorites. So we'll be getting that together in the next 6 weeks. And this is a working group, meaning it's not intended to last forever. Hopefully it'll be a disbanded working group by no later than June.
Great, thanks for the update, Tracy. Sorry, go ahead, Steve.
I was just wondering, so I just checked my email. I applied for CDF or Linux Foundation membership or CD Foundation membership. I can't remember. It was CDF membership in February, and I haven't had a response. So I don't know if I should follow up with anybody on that.
I actually sent an email just today, Steve, 2 hours ago.
No way. What do you
Yeah.
know? Would it be coming from the Linux Foundation?
Yeah, I think you applied for both because you need to be a left member as in order to join the CDF as a member. So yeah, we can follow it up on the mail. We need some documentation from your side.
Oh, I got one. I got one here. Oh, proof of nonprofit status. Got it. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, I'll send that. Thank you.
Welcome.
All right, we only have 3 minutes left, so maybe we can close the meeting short for 3 minutes, unless anyone has any other remarks. Okay, well, thanks a lot for the great discussion. Good to see everyone today, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, folks.
Bye.
Thanks so.
Bye.
Bye.